Welcome to our show today, and today we are going to teach a 4-layer Black Forest chocolate cake. All right, so to make a flour, this cake really is special because it tastes like you're eating a real baked cake. So we want our cake batter to taste really light. We don't want it to be dense like normal raw cakes are. So we're only going to go with 2 cups of almonds. So usually we go with equal amounts of almonds and coconut flakes, but almonds obviously are more dense than coconut flakes are. So we're going to go with 2 cups of almonds. There we go. Now for a really high cake, like I did in the freezer, you would go with 6 cups of coconut flakes. But for a regular cake, if you don't want it to be super, super high, 4 cups of coconut flakes. So it's double the amount of coconut flakes as there is almonds. So 2, 3, 4. And then it is a chocolate cake, so we obviously need chocolate. So we use raw cacao. Ours is brought in from Indonesia. For people that don't know about cacao, cacao is an awesome fruit. It's a fruit that is in season all year. So as organic farmers, we're always telling you to eat seasonally, right? Well, any time of year is a good time for chocolate because cacao and the noni fruit are in season all year long. Isn't that wonderful? So the cacao, the outside of the fruit, is a delectable, very delicious fruit that you can eat, and inside there's a cacao bean. So why we say cacao instead of cocoa, because a lot of you may have heard of cocoa, is when you take that bean and you heat it, then it makes caffeine produce and there's toxins. So we don't heat the cacao bean. It gets broken down into nibs, and if Ari, you just pass me what the nibs are right there. So that bean, it just kind of gets crunched up and it looks like this. So that's cacao nibs. And the next step of processing for us is to grind it down into this powder. So some people say, well, would it be easier for me to grind it down myself? No, I think that would be harder. Is there any benefit to it? I don't really think so, because these are, as you can see, raw Indonesian, raw vegan cacao nibs. And what we're using is raw cacao powder. So there's no difference. I would buy the pre-ground kind because it's easier. We're going to go ahead and grind that up a little bit. And then we're going to use 2 cups of coconut palm sugar to sweeten it. So right now we have 8 cups of dry ingredients in here. So it's usually 25% sugar, just as a rule of thumb. 25% sugar is what you would normally use. And so it's nice because those 2 cups of coconut flakes get blended really well. If you remember to add everything to the batter at the same time, you get a really nice chocolate look. Okay, so already, if you can see that, isn't that starting to look like a wonderful chocolate cake? Right now, the texture, good question, it's just all crumbly. You know, the almonds, there's no big flakes left of it or anything like that. It only took a couple of minutes because the almonds were the only things that really needed to be ground at all. But we're going to blend it up, make it smoother, and you'll start to see the coconut palm sugar blending in there. I like to take a big bowl. If you have a big bowl, then you can do that. And if you don't, you can add it right in here. If strawberries were in season, we need a little bit of liquid right now. I would add strawberries to my batter to give it that strawberry flavor. Because strawberries are not in season right now, I have frozen strawberries. And the problem with frozen strawberries is that they shed a lot of water. And we don't want water, we want real strawberry flavor. So we're going to go with strawberry extract. We went with Frontier. It's an all-natural strawberry alcohol-free flavor. And that is 2 fluid ounces. Okay, so now what I do is I go ahead and I take the batter out. And remember, the S-blade will drop on you no matter how careful you are. So it is best to just work with nature and take it out yourself. Okay, so this is what it's looking like. Now it is sticking a little bit. If I bunch it together, it is sticking a little bit. We want a little bit more liquid in there, so that 1/2 cup of strawberries would certainly have given us that little bit more liquid. We don't have enough money to keep putting more strawberry extract, and we want the strawberry just to be a secondary flavor. We want the primary flavor to be chocolate. And then as a secondary flavor, we want, like in a Black Forest cake, to be that hint of strawberry. So we've already got enough strawberry in there. So what I do, I just take my little bottle and I fill it up with purified water from the reverse osmosis filter. There it is. because then I figure if there's any extract left in there, then I'm getting it out. And we add 3 of these. And so then we blend it, and that's done. So just like a cooked dough, when you're about to put it in, then it starts, when you add the eggs and the butter, it starts to look like this. That's exactly what we're after. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to make the filling for our chocolate cake, and it's a cherry ganache. And that's going to be very exciting. We start off by using 1 10-ounce package of dark sweet cherries, and if cherries were in season, then you could use fresh cherries. Okay. All right, so you've got your cherries. In a ganache, typically when we're doing any kind of a fruit compote and cooking, we take that fruit, we put it over fire until any of the extra liquid cooks off, right? That's not what we're doing here. So in a pie, we're not doing that. Usually we stuff it with peaches or whatever fruit we're going to do, and then we add flour or cornstarch to absorb that liquid. What we do here is we're going to use coconut meat. And the coconut meat, without the coconut water, will become like a cream with the cherry ganache. So that's what we're after. We're going to go ahead, we're going to put it in our food processor. And we are going to put the meat of 2 coconuts in here. And we buzz it. If you have a Vitamix, this process is really quick in the Vitamix. Now we also need to sweeten it. So I add 1/2 cup of sugar to it. And then we add 1/2 bottle of cherry extract. So to recap that was 1 10-ounce bag of cherries. That was 1/2 cup of coconut palm sugar, the meat of 2 coconuts, and 1 ounce of cherry extract. And you know that it's done either in your food processor or in your Vitamix when there's no more white dots of coconut meat left. And now we get to the fun part of assembling this cake. Okay, so what I do is I try to use 1/3 of the batter at the bottom of the cake pan, which means that I want just a thin layer. That's all I want. Before I start pressing this down, you want to wet your hands. People ignore these steps. I'm telling you, they're tried and true steps. Really makes a difference for how your cake comes together. So we wet the palms of our hands, and the reason we're doing that is we do not want the batter to stick to our hands. And then this is what it will look like. Okay, just a very thin layer. Now we have our beautiful cherry ganache. And we fill the cake with it. Okay, so a really nice thick layer of cherry ganache. Now we go ahead and you want to gently try to crumble it a little bit as you're spreading it. You don't want to just put dollops on. And you want to cover the whole entire surface. And you don't want any of the cherry ganache to show when you're done in the end. Okay, so I'm not going to tilt this up at you right now, but I don't see any of my cherry ganache at the bottom, but I have high and low spots in my cake batter. So I just kind of spread them out first. Then you really do want to make sure that your hands are nicely wet again, because we're trying to pat it down and we don't want it sticking to our hands. Okay? And that's what it's looking like right now. Okay? So now we're going to teach you how to make the mousse for the top of the cake. So we've had cherries as a fruit. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do avocados. And a nice way of doing avocados is you got to make sure that your avocado is ripe. You can always tell your avocado is ripe when you push with your thumb and there's give. If there's no give, don't use that avocado because it has kind of a starchy taste. And so we cut the avocado vertically. We cut it horizontally on the vertical edge. So you don't want to cut it the long way. You want to cut it the short way. You go ahead and you put that part off, and then you use a spoon and you scoop out the flesh and you leave the skin. Now to make the mousse for 1 cake, you are going to need 4 avocados. I want a really chocolatey cake, so I am going to go with it 1 cup for every 4 avocados that you used. So it looks kind of like that. Now I don't know if you guys can see it, so I'm going to hold it up. Isn't that a beautiful Black Forest chocolate cake?